Might the church IRA be a great way of disposing your traditional retirement account at your death? Hi, this is financial planner Sean Mullaney. Let's discuss. So retirement account balances are growing, and there are going to be plenty of Americans who get to their 70s and their 80s, and they're going to have significant sums in traditional IRAs. And the question becomes, well, what do we do with that money when we pass on? Who do we designate as the beneficiary or beneficiaries of that account? And eventually it's going to get to the next generation, to the kids, generally speaking. And some of us are going to have kids that do much better than us economically. So think about this. There are going to be some people with maybe 500,000, a million, 2 million, 3 million in a traditional IRA, and they're going to have one or more kids that are just killing it economically and are going to be a lot wealthier than they are. And they're going to leave them a piece of that traditional IRA, and it's just going to be wealth that sits on top of the pile. It's going to have very little impact on their lived experience, or at least a piece of it will certainly have a very little impact on there. So I think we want to be a little more intentional about, well, do I just leave this asset to a high tax child who's not going to benefit much from it because they're already doing great, and oh, by the way, this is going to jack up their taxes? Well, maybe what we do is, well, we don't disinherit our children. Maybe we add a child, and that child could be the church, right? So what we could do is, we have 3 kids. We could designate the 3 kids and our church as beneficiaries on our traditional retirement accounts, right? That has several effects. One, it does some good for the world, right? It continues our faith after our death. That's a really good outcome. All right, so there's good for the world. That's really good. But the other thing that does is it doesn't really hurt our adult children that much, right? I have an example on my blog. It's going to be in the show notes below, where I talk about an 85-year-old couple, and they've got 3 kids and a $3 million traditional IRA, and they implement the church IRA. So the church gets $750, and each of the kids gets $750. And I'm here to tell you, from a lived experience perspective, there's not going to be much of a difference in the kids' lived experience if they're inheriting a $1 million traditional IRA or a $750,000 traditional IRA. And it gets better. Because, yeah, all right, so maybe that couple just sliced a quarter off each child's inheritance. Oh, no. Well, they sliced off the highest tax quarter. Because you got to remember, your kids are probably going to have to take that traditional IRA out over a 10-year time frame. And so it's going to go sit on top of their other income. And maybe they're, like I said, very successful themselves. And so they're going to pay a very high tax rate on that. Well, maybe what you do is you divert a quarter of that out of their tax return and to the church. The church doesn't pay tax on it. They don't care. And you've essentially taken the highest tax slice and taken it away from your kids and given it to your church. So look, there's no uniform answer here. But I do think we have to think about the lived experience of people after our death and stewardship of our assets before we die. And we shouldn't just default in, well, I have 2 kids, so they just get everything, right? 50-50. Or I have 3 kids, they get everything, a third, right? We should ask some questions, and we should ask some questions about just how much do my adult children need these assets? And maybe some piece of these assets should be diverted for a higher purpose, our church or another charity. Just some food for thought this weekend. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please mash that like button and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time.